I just noticed a lot of new wholesalers have been doing that. So try not to do that if you're a new wholesaler, because it's just a waste of time. Like so many people, like Randy, he's out here always on the meeting, always he cold calls a ton. He's got a VA. He's asking the right questions. He's getting deals done, and he's squatting up with Todd, who knows the areas really well, so he doesn't look like an idiot sending a deal out for 50K that the basement walls are crashing in. So that's pretty much it. I just wanted to rant about those two wholesalers because that kind of pissed me off. Like I think it's common sense that if it's worth 95 to 100 fixed up, it's probably not worth 110 as is. Like, I don't know, that maybe it's just me, but
yeah, I'd be willing to side with you there, Carson.
yeah. But if you know investors who are willing to pay that much, then let me know.
Yeah, one thing I want to say though is, I know for new investor or for new wholesalers, it's really hard to figure out the ARV. And some of them say, oh, we can get away with, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and we'll go ahead and do the ARV with 2 baths, no problem. I was talking with a guy. We had a bungalow and a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, and I made the mistake of not putting like the maximum bathroom count of 1 bath. Turns out a 3-bedroom, 2-bath was going for like 126 and was like the ARV. So I'm going by those numbers and everything. Then I put it in for 1 bath, and the ARV comes at like 85 to 90 grand.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, that just like screwed up all my numbers.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like
starting
that one
out,
little tweak of 1 bathroom, because they put a bathroom in the basement, where it could fit, and they got that much extra.
Yeah. I mean, that's just how it goes. And and to say this to new wholesalers too, you're going to mess up and misprice things a lot of times. And it's better to price it higher at first and then, take a cut if you don't get any traction. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. People are going to tell you, oh, that's not worth that, blah, blah, blah. But then you're learning how much it's worth. It's just these guys are coming at it from, they think they know what it's worth, and they're trying to sell it for more than that. That's, if he would have came back and said it's worth 150, I could be like, oh no, dude, that's an apartment building that you're comping it with. That's more understandable than knowing it's worth 80 and selling it to me for 83. But yeah, I mean, starting out, you're going to misprice them. And I would recommend to overprice versus underprice, because the first time you underprice a deal, will be your last, because it sucks when you have 30 people that call you and say they want it. And you're like, oh shit, I could have gotten way more. Right. But, it's all learning. It's all learning. So
ask questions. I mean, even bring those deals into this meeting and, ask one of us that have access to the MLS. We can help comp,
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah, ask a realtor. Chris Martin.
Or partner up with a realtor and give them a couple of bucks to help you comp. I mean, the best way to do it is to get the price per square foot, from a like size home with the same number of bedrooms and baths. So I've done that in the past prior to getting access to the MLS.
Yep. And if you can find 3 like houses and take the average of those prices per square foot.
Right. Yeah, you're right on, right, Carson?
Yep. And that's what appraisers do. They have to find, I think they have to find at least 2 comps. I think it is. Or maybe it's just, 3 comps, but one of them has to be almost exact to the others. They can kind of fluff. And I'm just kind of learning that side of things too, because I had a appraiser talking to me about my 1-bedroom house, and there's really no comps for my 1-bedroom house. So he was like, it took him twice as long as normal appraisals, because he couldn't find any houses. He's like, I have to use this. But they have their thing they go by, and it is 3 comps. So it's always a good thing to go by 3 comps as well. Chris Martin, did you have an experience with Keegley or something that kind of ended like that? He said that's Keegley. They end up going 4 assignments deep and then back out on the day of closing. I'm just curious if you had an experience with them or something.
Yeah, no, not at least not yet personally. But I was just on a phone call yesterday with another guy that's what happened, and he had to run out and find a new buyer last minute because they didn't find out that they were 4 contracts deep until the guy backed out, because it wasn't the guy it wasn't the end buyer, it was like the second guy in line that didn't do what he was supposed to do, so the whole house of cards fell apart.
So was that like a daisy chain? Is that what you're?
Yeah, they just assigned it multiple times.
Okay.
Well, that's different than a daisy chain. So, but I don't understand how that fell through if it was not the buyer. Like that means one of the wholesalers, would have had to just not want to get paid or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the deal was
But
exactly,
it gets
but yeah.
weird. It gets weird when you have that many wholesalers involved, because you have the seller and the buyer, and then you have 4 people in between, and then it's just like there's so much miscommunication. Who does the title work? And then this guy, when the seller needs something, it's got to be communicated to 5 people to get to the buyer. So it's always just kind of a pain. But
Yep.
you do have to understand, working with other wholesalers, that they're not buyers. So you have to treat them a little differently than buyers. Like you have to, it again, it depends on the wholesaler. But if I have a wholesaler that's new and they say, I have a buyer for this house, I'm going to say, okay, put me in touch with your buyer. I won't ever sell another deal to him. Like I'll always go through you for this buyer, but I need to be in contact with this buyer. You can still have whatever you sold it for over my deal. And then we'll go that way. Make them put a deposit down. The biggest mistake you can make working with another wholesaler is assigning it to them with no deposit and no close date. Like maybe you give them 20 days to close. Your contract is 25 days with the seller. So they can't find a buyer in 20 days, and you can't do anything in those 20 days because they have the rights to that contract. You can't even legally market it at that point. So and guess what? If they can't sell the deal, all they have to do is say, oh, sorry, I couldn't find a buyer. And then you're the one that has to go have that hard conversation with the seller. Like, oh, I have to back out of buying your house. They could be halfway moved out at that point. And then also you just put yourself in a position where you only have 5 days to resell it. So a good way to do it, don't assign it to them, give them a non-exclusive marketing agreement, which typically that's like the legal way in a daisy chain, right? Because daisy chaining is just, I see Mike Mukhtar post a deal for 20K and I go post it on another Facebook post or site for 30K. That's daisy chaining. I don't have any legal right to that purchase agreement. I don't have any right to be marketing it. But if Mike gave me a non-exclusive marketing agreement, that means I have the rights to market that purchase agreement as well for whatever price I want. Now, he could give me an exclusive marketing agreement, but that's going to mean that he can't market it while I'm marketing it. So if he gives me a 7-day exclusive marketing agreement, then he can't market it for those 7 days. So, and you can do that as well. Instead of giving someone a 50, I don't, if anyone wants non-exclusive marketing agreements for my deals, I'll always give it to them because I don't care. The more people that market my deal, the better. If I'm marketing a deal for 25K and Matt Hoppersberger is marketing it for 30K, those buyers, even if the buyers see them both and like, oh, why are 2 people marketing it? They're still going to know that I'm the one with the deal. I'm the one they need to talk to. It's going to make me look good in the end. It's going to make Matt look bad. That's why, if I have it posted on Todd's Facebook group and you get a non-exclusive from me, don't go post it on Todd's Facebook group for another 5K. Like you're going to look like an idiot. But, it's just, it all depends on the person. Just don't ever assign it to them. The biggest way to avoid anything like that happening is when you're dealing with a buyer, because you might not know if they're a wholesaler. That's the biggest thing. Wholesalers won't tell you they're wholesalers.
Right.
Make them put a deposit down, and it's the first person to sign. Like if you don't sign, if Matt tells me he's buying one of my deals and he doesn't sign because he's still trying to sell it, but at least he has that purchase agreement, so he knows if he does sell it, he can just sign and it's done. Like, and I sell it to somebody else, then I'm gonna sell it to them and say, sorry, Matt, like, you never signed, you never put your deposit down. So what I do is I don't sign the agreement until my buyer signs it. So I might send 2 assignments out to 2 different buyers that want this deal, but the first one to sign gets it. and even if they both sign, my signature's not on either one of those. So then I can text the one guy and say, hey, look, somebody signed before you, which typically I'll text him as soon as I get the signature from the first guy. And then I'll just say, we can't move forward with this deal because somebody else signed before you. But, people just want to make easy money off you. So they'll say, hey, look, assign it to me. And then, well, you're sitting there waiting for them to sign, thinking they're going to, and they're like, oh, I couldn't make it to the title company to put a deposit out today. They're just trying to find another buyer and you're wasting your time. So I hope that helps kind of dealing with wholesalers, because it's tricky and you don't want to get caught in something like that, Chris, because it can be bad. But at the same time, Kiwi does a lot of good business. I know that they do stuff like that as well, but you just have to treat them like you would anybody else. And if that deal was done right, then that original wholesaler would have gotten a deposit from at least one of those other wholesalers, and he would have been able to go find another buyer. Unless
Yeah,
he
I
gave him
think
too much time.
I think that's what's happened is one of them, somebody didn't, one of the chainers or whatever didn't make their deposit,
Yeah.
so.
But
yeah,
that wasn't
my thing personally. That was I was actually just talking to somebody yesterday about that, and then it was same thing. Like, closing day, okay, sorry, we're not closing, and then they had to pay the seller. I think he said they paid him like an extra $2,000 for like another week or something, and then they found another buyer and sold it. So yeah, thanks for mentioning that that marketing agreement. I'm gonna try to find one of those, I guess, because I just signed up with this platform. We'll see how it goes, but it's basically just like a giant buyers list, and it's all like geo-tagged and it's nationwide. So
who is that with, or what's it called?
it's called Investor Lift. And
who runs it? Like, is it a big name?
they just released their like they just went live or whatever. But they've had a handful of like big name guys on their platform for like the last year while they were putting it together and testing and everything. Like Nick Perry and Carlos Reyes and some of those guys.
They were on there. They're using that platform, or are they on there as buyers?
They've been using it, yeah, for about a year, I think. And they
Gotcha.
just released, like they just started selling licenses to, others. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, I was gonna try to I've been trying to find some decent deals from wholesalers to reach out to them and see if I can find them a buyer above and beyond what they can get, maybe using this list that I now have access to. So
Is
it's
it a
pretty
list of wholesalers?
No, buyers, vetted buyers.
Oh, okay. Using that list to sell their deals. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So,
It's not a
I
bad idea.
I have a pretty good size buyers list myself, but this is like a list of 2 million buyers, like nationwide. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, anyway,
The tough part about that is, like, when you're working with another wholesaler's deal, unless you either have to work with new wholesalers and help them through the process and then sell their deal for them because they don't know what it's worth anyway. So you're helping them and you're selling it for them, or you have to know your buyers well enough. Like, if Todd has a good deal, it's going to sell right away. Todd gets good deals. He's a good wholesaler, but it's going to sell really quick because it's a good deal. So I need to know my buyers like on a good enough level to where I know that one person to call. And I'm like, hey, Fernando, you like to buy in Redford. This is the deal. I know you want to buy this. And then I'll tell him personally it's 5,000 more than what Todd got it for, and bring him out there and get it done right away, because Todd's going to have 5 other people there that want it the next day if my guy doesn't get it. So it's kind of tough. Like I said, they typically either have to be newer wholesalers, or you have to be on top of it. Like, I had a deal, a wholesaler posted it And the guy who rents me out my office, my landlord of sorts, I guess, he's more of a mentor to me. But anyway, I just walked over to him and said, hey, Mike, do you like this deal? I was like, this wholesaler posted for 25K. You want to pay? He was like, I could probably pay 28, 29. And I was like, okay, let's go look at it. So we went and looked at it that day. I called the wholesaler and said, hey, look. And I treated, and they treated me just like a buyer. I had to treat them just like a seller, like really urgent. Like, hey, if my guy wants it, do you still have to show other buyers, or can we sign for it today? And they were like, if you can give us an asking price, we'll sign it over to you today. So my guy came back, told me he wanted it, and we closed. It was that easy. But if I didn't know that buyer that well, to go over there and ask that one person, and I shot it out to my list, and I'm getting 10 people that want it, it would have been a tougher thing to do. But it definitely works.
for sure.
I mean, Keely's crushing it. So
Yeah, I was gonna target the buyers that are, people that are investing here, but from out of state, on maybe towards the west side of the country,
are you
Um,
local?
yeah. Yep, I'm here. I'm in Riverview, just south of
Gotcha.
Detroit.
Okay.
And
So what's a good way for somebody just starting out to build up a solid buyers list? Just starting out.
just go to the Metro
Um,
page and download it.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. Like where are you at, Victor?
I'm in like Illinois and Missouri, right on the border of both states.
Okay.
So yeah.
I mean, my first thing is always like, well, I would start with Facebook. Like you go to Illinois investor groups on Facebook, there's going to be big investors in there. St. Louis, same thing. But if you get good deals, buyers are going to come to you. And then that's the best way to do it. Start building it, build up your MailChimp, build up your Excel sheet or whatever organically as you can. And then from there, sending out deals is going to be the best way to learn that buyer's list, because you might have 5 people come out and look at it. And then one of them's like, oh, I don't buy 3 bedrooms. And you're like, okay, now I know to only send this guy 2 bedrooms. And the other people make offers. Now those people are serious. But, especially nowadays, even on Facebook groups, if you're getting a bunch of emails, half of them are going to be wholesalers. So
Yeah.
you really just have to
Right.
go out and get deals, and you'll be able to tell, like, especially once you start doing it more, like I can tell a wholesaler by the pitch in his voice. Like, I don't even, it's just, you can, especially when they're new. Like if I say, hey, Matt, your deal, that wholesaler that called me about it. He said he was interested. He was like, I want to buy it. He just said, hey, he just sounded really weird when I called him. And I was like, so are you wholesaling this or are you a buyer? And I was like super direct with him. So he knew like he couldn't just BS me. And he's like, oh, I have a buyer, but we're both, he's interested. I was like, okay, like you're a wholesaler. So most of those emails are going to be wholesalers. Networking is great too. Like if you can go to local meetups, that's how I built most of my buyers list, was networking. Even my out-of-state buyers, I met them in person on conferences and stuff. That's just what I'm good at. I'm not good at like over the phone and Facebook and stuff. But we did a whole week on how to build a buyers list too. If you go to Todd's YouTube channel, Todd, put your YouTube in the chat. And you can watch that. But I mean, you can even go on YouTube and look up Max Maxwell, Carlos Reyes, how to find buyers. There's tons of different videos on it. That's the easy part.
So this is me coming from as a new wholesaler trying to build my buyers list. One thing that I've seen is I've gone to only like one of these meetups so far, and doing this here, just talking with people and letting them know that you buy houses, things like that you wholesale or whatever. They will come to you and be like, okay, you can put me on your list, something like that. And then I built my partner built a questionnaire, and so I send that out to their email and I say, be as detailed as possible. The more detailed you are, the more I can help you with your criteria, and then I'm a beginner. I don't have much on my buyers list by any means, but I've also with me cold calling or following up with some of these people, I do tell them that, like, hey, if it doesn't work for me, I pass it along to the other investors. Some of these guys, even though they don't want me to buy their deal because maybe I don't get the price, but the but the they say, oh, put me on your buyers list then, for whatever deal you don't get. I said, okay, and I send them my questionnaire and tell them that. So it's slowly going there, and Todd's right. Todd's my buyers list right now. So, but it's because I'm a beginner. I'm squatting up with a seasoned wholesaler, and I'm learning from it every minute. So every deal I do with Todd, I'm learning something new, and it's fun. But I'm still trying to build my buyers list as much as possible.
Yeah. Todd said he's kidding. I mean, but he's
Oh yeah,
not.
I know he is.
But
He's not, but it's
he's
the
not.
truth,
He's not
Yeah.
kidding. Todd sold a deal for me last month.
Hey,
Like-
Todd's my buyer.
Todd sold a deal for me last month. And we're doing close to just as many deals as each other every single month. So, it's never like you stop working with wholesalers or Todd's not your buyer. It's just you kind of approach it a different way because you have other buyers too. So you start treating Todd like a buyer. Todd, I want to see your deposit, Todd. Make Todd put deposits down for your deals, Randy. I'm just kidding.
Oh,
But-
yeah,
If
no.
it's a good deal, I will.
Yeah, and Todd would 100% because he knows what a good deal is. So,
Yep.
Fernando, I like that. What does that thing behind you say? I just see billionaires.
Oh, it says first generation billionaires.
Nice.
Sweet. What market are you out of?
I'm sorry?
What market are you out of?
I'm in Phoenix, Arizona.
Really?
Steve Trang, baby.
Yeah, you got all the greats out there, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hey
I'll
guys,
be in.
if you find a killer deal and you're in front of the seller, to get the deal, sometimes you gotta put wholesalers under the bus and let them know, say, look, there's gonna be people offering you money. They're not gonna ask for an earnest money deposit. They're gonna want a 45-day inspection. They're gonna want this and that and this and that. You say, look, I want a 0 inspection and I will give you a $5,000 earnest money deposit or a $1,000 earnest money deposit. If you know it's a great deal, you got to do it. So I mean, it's just a suggestion.
No, for sure. When I buy deals myself, I always put a deposit down. They never asked me to. I think I've only once in like all the deals I've done had somebody ask me for a deposit. I've had a couple other people that are like, oh, are you going to put a deposit down? And I'm just like, no. And they're like, okay. They don't even question it. But when I want to buy a deal, because I know for sure it'll close and I want the deal, I do the same thing. I say, I'll put a deposit down. Wholesalers have this in their agreement that says assignable interest. Like I'm going to cross it out in my agreement,
Yep.
and which don't do if you're assigning it, obviously. But if it's a hot enough deal, I'll do that because it's going to make your offer more. It's just going to make your offer more competitive. So
Yep.
that's, yeah, for sure. Definitely do that if you have a good enough deal. And if you need someone to back you up, like I've put deposits down for other wholesalers before. I'm like, this is a good enough deal. I want it. I'll put a deposit down and then I'll either buy it or find a buyer. So,
Yep. Sure.
do you do your own deals, Fernando, or are you with a company out there?
We actually just started. There's 4 of us, but I'm the one doing most of the legwork and networking. We're trying to get into virtual wholesaling. That's why I'm here, networking with you guys. But yeah, so far we haven't done any deals yet. Like I said, we're brand new. So I'm just kind of learning the different markets and just trying to network.
So
Sweet.
what's the role of the other 3 people?
So 2 of them are just money guys. They're supplying all the funding for marketing and things like that. And then the other one, he has another business that he spends about 70% of his time, but he's very knowledgeable in real estate and marketing. And so that other 30%, I just kind of go to him for advice, things like that.
Like a
Kind
mentor?
of make sure that we're on the right track. Exactly.
And what's the split? Is it like 25% straight?
Yep, 25 across the board.
So my suggestion, because I've done this before, is do this for 2 months at a time, 3 months at a time, and always come back to it, because eventually you're gonna, hopefully 6 months from now, you won't need these guys.
Right.
Okay, or you might only need one of these guys. So they want you to do all the work and make money off your back, which is good because you're learning now, right? You need them right now, but 6 months from now you might not need them, or you might need them. I'm just be upfront now. And partnerships are great, and partnerships can be horrible. So you just gotta have the right partners.
Definitely.
Because 25% of 10 grand is $2,500. You got to do a lot of deals. You got to do 10 deals to make you happy, right?
Right.
So eventually, and by yourself, you got to do 5 deals to do the same amount of work, right? Or the money. So it's just something to think about. I don't know those
Especially
guys.
especially with like the marketing costs,
What's that?
because I was gonna say like the marketing cost, you do one deal, now you have marketing for the next couple months. I don't know what your lifestyle or overhead is like as far as that goes, but I'm assuming you either have a job or you have income from something that pays that. So you can, all that wholesale money you get, put that toward marketing and then cut out the other guy. But I mean, it's definitely not like when I started, I did the same thing. I had partners, Todd had partners.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with it, but just have an open mind to it, because it can very quickly become like you're like a hamster running a hamster wheel. When you do 10 deals and 10 deals is busting your ass, like, I mean, 10 deals is a lot. You're going to be working a lot and you make 25 grand. 25 grand is great, but for the amount of work you have to do for 10 deals, like I wouldn't do it for 25 grand.
Yeah. No,
I
so
will.
You should be making at
I
least
will
50
do it.
grand.
and the goal
So-
eventually.
But what I'm saying is, I mean, what is their marketing? You got 2 guys doing marketing. You got to check and see, what are they doing? Are they doing pay-per-click? Are they doing direct mail? Are they providing lists only and phone numbers?
Yeah.
That's not worth what they're doing. So again, just keep all this in mind and, do what you're doing. 3 months, look at it again and see if it makes sense. 3 months from then, see if it makes sense. Eventually, you're going to hire people hourly to do what they're doing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, so I joined this, and I actually have a business partner myself, so wanted to give you my experience with that. It's great, and I like having a business partner because he's doing the part that I'm not really that great at, but to have 3 other business partners, so a total of 4 people, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's too big of a split in my opinion, and that's too much where people could just be like, okay, I'm gonna 1 hour a day and call it a day. You know what I mean? It's like everybody should be putting in the same amount of work. Now I understand the person that has the the experience, things like that, they're not going to put in the same amount of work. That's they're there because they're experienced, but just for somebody who's bringing in money as a wholesaler, you don't really need that. Okay. You don't need the money guy. You need the guy who can show the proof of funds. And that's why I have my partner as well. Show the proof of funds. That's fine. But he doesn't necessarily need to be like, he's not
Well,
buying
Randy,
the property.
I mean, that depends what marketing they're doing too. I mean,
Right.
it's all
That's true as
situational.
well.
So
Yeah,
it's all
everything's
situational. I don't know your situation well enough to say whether or not to have a partner. And I told Randy like the same thing, like just be careful about this stuff. But Keegley is a perfect example. They have Hunter, Josiah, Jamil, and they have 4 partners. and they're cranking out 70, 80 deals a month. So, there's nothing wrong with it. Just keep an open mind to it, always be willing to adapt, that's just make sure it makes sense for you. But, I had a business partnership when I first started, it went south, but I don't regret it because I learned a ton from it. And I learned a ton from that other guy, like I'm sure you will from your partners and mentors. So just, just keep an open mind to it and make sure everyone's putting in their part. I just know how it feels like when I first had my partnership, there was a point